lessons like a verbal sprint. Breaking it down with an ad tech tint. Ad tech, ad talk, it's a live Q&A. Buy side, sell side, clearing the way. CEO spitting truth, no delay. Chalice and Gamera owning the day. Program that.
In the ad tech justice system, the people are represented by two equally separate but equally important groups, the buy side and the sell side. These are their stories. And here's Adam and Gareth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ad Talk. We're excited to be here. We're even more excited to have you here, where Adam and I bring together buy-side and sell-side and grumpy perspectives to describe, to detail, and to explore everything in ad tech. I'm joined by Adam. Hey, Adam, how are you?
I don't know if I'm feeling it today, Gareth.
Oh, why not, Adam? What's wrong?
Well, I'm a little hungover. I was out with David Nuremberg and Kenny Paul at the back room on the Lower East Side last night where they serve cocktails in coffee cups. So, some live ad tech action with some ad tech friends.
That's amazing. I know both of those names from LinkedIn very well.
They're great guys. But what's bumming me out is yesterday or the day before, I wrote a post that I thought was kind of funny about a company, and the founder CEO of that company emailed me. He called me a petty bitch with an embedded link to the post, which would have been fine. But then he added, "Nobody likes you."
I think I know the post you're talking about. I thought it was funny.
If nobody likes me, then why is he mad about the post?
Yeah, at least we know in 2025, like, people are comfortable talking to each other again. Like, COVID's
He
over.
reached out.
He reached out. He's it's not an olive branch, but he shot a flamethrower in your direction.
He also said, "I'll see you at Cannes." I don't know if that was that threat.
Is that similar to "I'll see you in hell"?
It's the same idea. This guy, he has like a thing of like asking for advice, pretending to be really modest and looking for mentorship and asking for advice, and then he steals the ideas. He's known for this in the industry, and it's that company, which is an attention company. I don't know anything about the product or what they have because I blocked them out. I worked with this guy and fell out with him. We haven't talked in 6 years. And like I pay no attention to the company, but I know that it's an attention company. I only saw this post because Google posted it. It wasn't even from them. I have all their post blocks. I don't know what they're up to. But that company has a lot of my ideas in it from the short time that I worked in there. And I've heard from other people. There's a bunch of other ideas in that company. So I thought I'd get your ideas on attention.
Oh, okay. Um, so I will start with a caveat, as I like to, before I say something that is not
Yeah.
the most complimentary. But my caveat is, I do think the idea behind attention is well intentioned. So the notion that we need to move primarily beyond viewability is long overdue. Um, and the industry does have this tendency, and I'm not sure it's entirely the industry's fault, but I think all industries do this. There are concepts that are really, really good when they're coupled with good things. So, like, viewability is actually a great concept in terms of what came before it, which is just raw impression delivery. And the notion of, oh, we want to deliver ads that are actually seen by people is a good one. And I actually think that there was originally utility in viewability. The reason that I think that that was the case is because Google actually built it. And Google, I don't think
Sells, right?
builds
Their own
things.
advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Google builds things that doesn't correlate to outcomes in their outcome tracking. I don't think that they do that. I think they're pretty well disciplined about saying, okay, It's our job to tell everyone how well their business is doing, and we are looking for signals that actually help us to tell that story. And that story might be a lie. That's perfectly possible. Like that's very widely discussed. However, at the very least, they're not like building to signals that don't help them tell that story. So I think that's actually the root of my concern with attention is attention is becoming an outcome unto itself for a lot of people, the same way that viewability was an outcome unto itself. And that's not the value of these things. These things are just signals. That's all that they are. That we should be using to correlate the way that Chalice does to actual outcomes. So, attention, you should never be running a campaign that optimizes to attention just to run a campaign that optimizes to attention. And that is a thing now. That's a thing because like they sell it in and it is probably incrementally better than optimizing to viewability for viewability's sake, but only incrementally. Like it should just be an additional signal in the bid stream driving to outcomes.
And what
And
about the cost? Yeah, my problem with like the way the double verify IIS viewability thing has rolled out. I mean, Moat was better because they charged on the sell side. So like I don't think advertisers should be paying for just for the signal. So is the attention marketplace growing up that you have in such a way that you have to pay for attention measurement on top of media?
yeah, they've been paying a few times. So
Times?
the attention vendors are very clever. Because
How
they've
did they
been
charge
born
one?
in an yeah, they've been born in an era of curation, right?
Yeah.
Where people who can help drive outcomes can insert themselves into the value chain and
Yeah.
collect money, like real money, like rev share money, which I'm sure Double Verify and IAS would have loved to get rev share money. But they didn't have a clean way to do it. So they had to charge exorbitant CPM fees. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but the attention is in the curation era, they can charge the CPM fees and they can say, oh, by the way, we can also build deals for you and we can also build marketplaces for you of attention optimized inventory, which is akin to double verify going out and saying, oh, we can build double verify pooled inventory for you that we're going to charge 10% on, but that passes all of our checks and somehow or is categorized in some way by us. Um, which I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe they do that for CTV actually, come to think of it. Or
For
no, that's I
those
mean
who don't
IAS for
know,
CTV, but
data and quality used to always charge on the buy side, and curation created a way for them to charge on the sell side. When you charge on the sell side, the SSP pays the curator. They take the money off the bid and pay the curator. So the advertiser doesn't necessarily know, actually has no way to know how much is being taken out unless they could audit those SSP logs, which they probably can't, right? So it's not their tech. And this is
mhm.
a problem with curation. There's ways to get an idea of how much fee is taken on a PMP that's been curated by a curator, but it's hard. And there might be multiple fees, right? There's some SSPs charge a curation fee, and then the curator will have a markup before that. All that money is coming off the advertiser's bid. And it's really hard to tell if the value you're getting from that curation is worth those costs that you can't see. So it's a big problem. There's a lot of justified controversy over it.
Well, and I feel like it's especially dangerous, right, when you're optimizing to something like attention or viewability as an outcome in and of itself. Like, if you're optimizing your campaign properly, right, to incremental outcomes for your brand or for your advertiser, you kind of don't care how much is getting taken out. Like, sure, if you can get less taken out, the better your outcomes will be, but you're somewhat protected because as long as you're happy with what that number is, like, things in the ecosystem are kind of okay. But when you're not doing that, right? Like when your campaign is just buying attention, they could take
It's
50%
a
and
it's a real problem with the buy side. Like I try to come in and say, this is a tech proposition. You pay us for tech. The tech reads the signals, and we're looking at refresh rate and add to content ratio and number of network calls and so many things to value the page now and to bid at page level when we curate. And we're saying this is a tech job and you should pay us a tech fee. But the norm is that if you can have anything like this, then you call yourself a media company and you have media markup, then it's not a tech company, right? It's a service company with some non-transparent markup, and the ability to hold on to that money depends on, how good friends you are and how much, kind of entertainment money you're spending back at the, to the advertisers. This bullshit world with far from value, and it's not very competitive. So bummed out about that. It's probably why I have no friends, but I'm going to try to cheer up. Last week I was you started to give half of the Gamera pitch, and I want to hear the rest because I think it also touches on this issue of sell side curation and attention.
Yeah. So last week I talked about my analytics business. Um, this week I'll talk about my curation business. And I will say this, I'm a reluctant curator. If you've read anything that I've written, I don't curate with joy. I curate like with a
Rage
single
filled.
tear and a rage face. Like I really do. And it's because it's the only way I can get my data into the bid stream. And it's actually an attention adjacent discussion.
Hmm.
Because what Gamera does as a curation company is we call it a third type of data. And currently in ad tech, there are two types of data. There's behavioral data and there's contextual data. You can bundle most vendors who sell data into one of those categories. And sure, there are some funny little flavors, but like historically, you got behavioral guys who are mapping cookies to stuff, and you got contextual guys who are reading websites and saying this is what the website's about.
Right.
And people put all sorts of different lipstick on those two different things, but that's what they are. There is a third type of data that is neglected, but you were just alluding to it actually in some of the things that you're talking about you optimizing to, and that's inventory data. And historically, inventory data is constrained by one thing, and that is Google.
Hmm.
And the reason inventory data is constrained by Google is because Google's ad server has 90+% market share. That's why we just broke them up as a monopoly, the tying between AdX and GAM.
Yep.
What this means is the advertising ecosystem on websites is built in the image of GAM,
Hmm.
right?
How do they
Every
constrain? You got to say, let's take the question with that and come
Yeah,
back
yeah,
and
yeah.
say, how do they constrain inventory data and how are you
Uh-huh.
getting through it?
You got
That's
it.
a question for you after this one. Marley, please read the question for our audio customers. You're on mute.
I do.
Sorry, guys. Do any curators disclose take? How much value is there if you actually did it?
Oh, I mean, depends on what you're doing. The chalice, like we regularly add like 60, 80% value. So that's a lot. That means we could take 60, 80 cents on the dollar before the advertisers thought it wasn't performing.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, we're taking much less than that, but it just shows what's possible, like how much value can be added. There's a few advantages of curation, right? Being page level is an advantage, having pub data is an advantage. Some really fast API connections could result in sort of QPS type advantages. Working with the publisher to get special data, potential advantages. So you can add a bunch of value or what appears to be value. And yeah, and add an undisclosed markup or multiple undisclosed markups.
Yeah. And so I do disclose my take rate when I curate. Um, I do it contractually
Yeah.
with all the publishers that I work with. But I'm a weird curator, right? Like most curators don't work directly with publishers. Most curators, part of the attraction of curation is they don't have to work directly with publishers. Um, I do think there's going to be pressure on the exchanges to start disclosing. And right now, I just do it to make publishers not scared. Because honestly, publishers are scared. Like they're like very nervous about this. And I don't get me wrong, I think that it's somewhat unfounded because like everything's a net bid. If they're making more money, they're making more money. But they have been very successfully like fear, uncertainty, and doubt campaigned into curators are doing what Adam just said. They're adding 80% value and they're charging a 79% fee. So the publisher makes a little bit more money, but the all of the value in the ecosystem gets hoovered out by these guys in the middle. Um, so yeah, I do it purely for comfort, and that's really all it does right now, is it makes people feel more comfortable with working with me. Um, there's no real advantage outside of it.
the goal of technology should be to bring that down. Like if you work in ad tech, the reason you add tech to the ecosystem, the good that could come with it is bringing it down. Last week, I was talking about how, bankers came in with technology and it sort of distorted advertisers' view of value, right? They get very distracted by margin, which is like a software obsession. But what I didn't say and what I could have realized after that is that the focus on agents is very much like a banker motivated play. And it's because the money in ad tech is all invested in SaaS. Like everything is invested in SaaS. Like everything is trying to be like Slack, which sold for 20 something
Everyone
billion.
wants that multiple. They don't want to be a media company.
Yeah, so all this money invested in SaaS is threatened by AI. Like, do you need Slack anymore, or is it just going to be completely replaced by AI? So what everyone is hoping is that SaaS continues to make money by layering on an AI agent, right? Since SaaS pays
Mm.
for usage, if there's an agent using it, the usage fees are going to go up. So it's a bit of a fantasy, but every time you hear agents, you should think, is this motivated by someone who's highly invested in SaaS, hoping that agents drive SaaS usage fees up? Because that's not a very good AI conversation to be having. That's something entirely different. So yeah, just throw that out there. I love bankers. Terry Kawaja is a fan of the show, and I'm a big fan of
I
his
love
content.
bankers too.
His State of Digital, the Luma State of Digital, which I assume is Terry and Connor's work that they presented at DMS, and I think you could download from the site, is a great deck on the landscape and how AI will be impacting it, and covers a lot of retail. Really
Oh,
great visuals, and I
I need to
think,
see that. I didn't get invited to DMS,
yeah,
so
you didn't get
yeah,
invited. You're stick
not
with me.
interested.
I'll get you into the white party at Cannes,
Oh my gosh,
where I might get beat up.
I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Bullies, man.
Uh, is there anything else in the queue, or can I continue shamelessly plugging with my long-winded tale?
Yeah, go
Let's
back
get
to
the
the talk.
plug.
We had a question come in over the weekend too. Oh yeah, zero.
No, that's sad.
Someone's
Um,
from Brisbane, where it's
Brisbane,
2 a.m. He or she must be too tired to ask.
dedicated. Um, I appreciate that. So my last sentence was built in the image of GAM, and I believe that. I think that the way that the last mile, the last touch point for every single ad that you see on the internet, for the most part, every banner, every native ad, uh, is Google. It's Google Ad Manager. That's what's putting it there.
Yep.
And publishers had to like manually put Google code on their websites, and that was how they added ads to their websites.
Yep.
So what that means is Google's in charge of categorization. They're in charge of labeling. They're in charge of how all of these advertising opportunities are described. And the greatest indicator of this is something called GPID. So I'll let you guys all in on the
But
sell
wait,
side thing. Yeah.
isn't what you could send in a bid request standardized by the Open RTB protocol and governed by the IAB? That's what
Oh,
in ad tech sphere.
yeah. They standardize the name of the field, and then anyone can put whatever they want into it. Um,
But how does Google get control of what you can send if it's standardized by the RTB protocol? How did
Yeah, so basically what everyone had to do is there's OpenRTB over here and there's the ad server right here. The ad server is what all the publishers have to use to actually put ads on their websites.
Yep.
The OpenRTB protocol is how all of the exchanges communicate with DSPs.
Yep.
But what publishers then had to do is they had to build objects inside of the exchanges that they then mapped to the objects that they built inside of GAM.
Okay.
And by the way, that is manual, like done by a person, or now I guess 2025, done by an agent that you yell at. And and like everyone, it's messy. Like
And
people
it's
make
rigid.
mistakes.
It's a
It's rigid.
Procrustean bed of categorization that limits what inventory data you could put through.
It does. Oh, and here's the thing. These are objects built in the systems of the exchanges. So I'll never forget, we were at Magnite, they started to run out of space. Like literally, just like we have too many of these things. The system is going to crumble. We have to reduce the number of the
Isn't it
things.
just a giant cached JSON or something? Like what? Why?
Yeah, so here's the thing. There are a bunch of lookups that have to happen. where there are attributes associated with each of these things. And this is a piece of technology that was built in 2007 and like is still fighting its way along. So like at a certain point, the discussion started to be this is just becoming unwieldy. And every time we're trying to get a bid request out to DSPs, we're consulting a list of 1 million placements that each of which has 50 attributes, and we have to do that like really fast. Like, and
Yeah.
it's a pain.
How does Gamera help?
So what Gamera does is it breaks us out of this. And what I mean by breaks us out of this is we sit on publisher websites and we build a procedural understanding of all of the advertising opportunities on the publisher's page. What I mean by procedural is we look at the website as it's loading. We're on there before the ads. And we build our own map of every differentiated place that one could advertise on this publisher. So every different way that we see an ad loading. So a way to think about this is a publisher might have an ad operations person who builds 50 opportunities because they say, oh, well, I got, like content well 728 by 90. I got right rail 300 by 250. These are literally how they're named in most publishers, by the way. And I'm going to slap these on there. And then my website, when it loads, is just going to kind of do its thing. And sometimes this is going to load like this. Sometimes it loads like this. Like it's how it's going to work. When in reality, when we're monitoring it, we're going to say, oh, no, no, no. When this loaded here, it's this. When this loads here, it's this. Those are different. And they're going to perform differently, and they should be tracked differently. And the notion here is that a publisher might have 50, we might have 500.
Yeah.
And we build a more granular thing to then measure performance against. So then we will track attention. We will track CTR. We will track viewability. We will track time on page. We'll track all of these things against the more granular one.
And they
And
get
in and
predictable. Yeah.
the free one, the rebel placement ID. That's how I think about us. We're the rebel placement ID. And turns out that the higher granularity means that the quality of our signals is just better. Where if you track against GPIDs, you're missing a lot of opportunity. And that's us.
It's pretty similar to what we do on the buy side. But is the buy side listening to your signals? We've been trying to bring products together, but if the buy side listens to those signals, right, it snowballs.
Well, this is why I'm a reluctant curator, is because for me to get my signals into the buy side is really hard.
Yeah.
Because all those legacy systems that have been built that are sitting there are not made to shoehorn this data in. And even if I find like sympathetic exchanges, which I have found, there are sympathetic exchanges who want to pass my data.
Yeah.
The buyers don't have a way to listen to it. They like gets to the DSP and the DSP goes, "Yep, well, no, not going to use that.
We're working on it.
You can use
We're
that."
gonna do it. We're working on it.
Yeah, I mean it'll get there, and I really do think like it improves performance, right? Like more properly categorizing, and this is by the way, one of the things I wanted to talk about today is data as data, and in the industry
All
when
right.
we have a queue.
Mhm.
Right,
We
sure.
had one over the weekend too. We should answer. Let's do both.
Yeah, we have to. We built that whole UI. Oh, one sec. Let me expand my screen. I couldn't see it.
All right, let's start with BlueHawk22. Is there a universe where alternate IDs never reach cookie level scale? Do you think that would trigger a domino effect explosion of niche IDs to unsustainable measurement to a swing back toward consolidation?
A universe where alt IDs never reach cookie level scale. Well, we could use cookies, so this question might be a little outdated since we already have cookies in cookie level scale, and now they're not going away. A domino explosion of niche IDs. So
Well,
yeah, you go first, because I mean we could talk about what we saw in the 5 years of the cookie apocalypse and what we're seeing now.
yeah, I think that scale. Well, there are two categories of alt IDs. And let's start there. Um, Category one of alt ID is UID2, right? This is a deterministic email hashed like real like aggressive identifier. UID2 is an aggressive identifier.
All
In the
right,
grand
yeah.
scheme of IDs, like man, that thing is PII, and like wow, like that is a person, and we know who they have a
Sure,
name.
yeah.
Like we can find their house. Like it's crazy. But then there's the other category of alt IDs, which are the fingerprinting slash probabilistic ones. And scale is definitely a problem in the first one because people don't like to give their name, like, or in the case of UID, it's not their actual name. They like give like
Email
they
address.
can type anything. It's just a stable ID, but a lot of them are like live intent is mapped to PII. But
Live
for
ramp.
the other ones, and
You
scale's
just
an issue
confused,
there.
you just confused live intent and live ramp. Were you like Joe Biden?
No, live intent has an ID solution. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, they had a probabilistic email to IP address. That's why they sold for $100 million to Zeta. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that was a nasty little
they're
solution.
in all those
That's
emails. Like they don't have the actual. Why was it probabilistic? They just call it probabilistic. They were an email.
scale. Yeah,
Oh,
and here's what they would do. And they would have the email from the person, and they would put a little piece of code on a website, and it would load, and it would say, "Hey, this IP address historically is associated with this email address. We
wow.
think that it might be this person." Yeah, man. Oof, wild one.
Spyware.
Um, yeah, really. When that was the thing, I was like, "That doesn't sound legal." Like, that sounds really invasive.
100 million.
But the other type of alt IDs are probabilistic ones, the fingerprinted ones, and scale is just not a problem there because all they have to do is like crank their accuracy down and scale go up, like, and they do that. And that's why I saw someone posted something really funny on Twitter the other day. They call them MFA IDs, and
Yeah.
there's some truth to that. Like, they're IDs that exist to capture spend based on what the bidding systems have said that they've wanted. So
Oh,
I would
yeah.
say,
That's
yeah,
why
like.
Blue Hawk's asking the wrong. There's no wrong questions, but Blue Hawk just asked closest thing to the wrong question, which is a lot of the questions around the cookie apocalypse is saying, how do we get back to the ID machines, the ID counting machines that we had for the first 10 years of ad tech? How can we go back to the ID identifying, right? Let's just like DSPs just look for IDs, SSPs just send up IDs. Like that whole marketplace has kind of run its course. It's become so corrupted and gamed, and it was never the best way to do advertising or publishing anyway. So to say good riddance to that and all the people working really hard to save it. Good luck to you. But the rest of us are moving on to a world of, CTV, device-based advertising, using other fields in prediction, right? You could get a lot of value out of regional optimization, contextual optimization. Like that's where the action is now.
I think Blue Hawk alluded to that though. They were like, "Ah, this is a downward spiral for these IDs." I think it's a good thing, except
Yeah.
for the probabilistic ones, because there's nothing stopping the probabilistic ones from persisting as long as buyers let them persist. And
But who
they,
pays? I don't understand the business model. Who pays the companies that are doing all this probabilistic ID work?
oh, so they charge for access to their graph, and it's very expensive. I'm serious.
What? Yeah,
Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year
I
for
don't know
the
how that
license.
works. As I said,
Yeah,
like ad tech is supposed to add value, take money out of the middle.
yeah. So the way that they work is when they're on a publisher's page, they have an ID that's unique to that publisher. That ID cannot be mapped to anything else.
Right, like a live run video, it's your own. All
And
right.
I got you, buddy. Um, and so that gets passed into the bid stream, but
Well,
that by itself is meaningless. And they say, hey, we can map this to all those user IDs that you care about. For us to do the lookup for you, Mr. Advertiser, Mr. Brand, Mr. Whoever, you have to pay us X amount per month. And that's how they do it. So they don't pass the actual ID into the bid stream. They ensure that to map the ID that's in the bid stream to one that actually has utility, that you have to use an intermediate service that they then charge for. And that's their business. And yeah, it is
so
what it
is it
is.
so it's usually the advertiser paying?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, you ask some of your agencies. I'm sure these guys get paid by your agencies are paying for some of these. Like,
Well,
hey,
yeah, I'm in London now, in Europe, and I just no one has said like it's really important to us that you integrate with these except maybe Denmark said it. They said that Denmark has a bunch of probabilistic IDs, but I've been talking
hmm,
many countries in Europe, so I'm getting like, sort of the lay of the land. Not
I
hearing much about probabilistic IDs.
yeah, well, Europe is so wonderfully direct sold. It's very unique. I've been having a lot of conversations. They really do establish relationships between buyers and sellers
Yeah,
in a
their
much more
newspapers
direct
survived.
way.
Most countries, the newspapers survived, unlike here, where we only have two newspapers in the whole country, maybe three if you count USA Today. That's
Yeah.
bad.
And then the Sinclairs that have rolled up all the locals.
Yeah, it's garbage. Okay, let's probably question came over the weekend. It was kind of a doozy, but we might as well take it.
Those are doozies.
Yeah, I like this question. This is from our friend Matt Newcomb in the UK, and he asked if social is now 90% about feeds and 10% about what your friends are up to, what are the implications on the buy side? Rob Georgeson at Zenith in The Current said it limits how the buy side can plan or optimize their campaigns. Can you unpack this? And in the same vein, what are the negative implications of the walled gardens reducing the flexibility of targeting? I've assumed it pushes people to buy the crap they don't really want, but I've never worked in social.
Hmm. Let's talk about the publish. To me, Gareth, it seems like publishers have a problem with their long tail of content. That all the demand is for like the live sports or the front page, and publishing always has an enormous amount of content and historical content, and they all have trouble spreading the peanut butter, right? Getting the money out into their long tail of content, with Google and Facebook being the best. But is that the way you see it?
Um, I would say two things. One is the thing that everyone always rails against, which, like, I am an ardent defender of post-click conversion campaigns and
Mhm.
really simple, like, conversion methodologies. Those are the key to making SMB work. And because Google and at the time, Facebook, by the way, Facebook Audience Network was a big buyer.
Yeah.
They buy in the long tail because they can find performance, right? They can say, hey, I don't care what website I'm on. A click is a click. And if that person clicks and then buys something, like that's great. And I can find them wherever. And that's why the long tail is historically so well monetized by Google because Google has this SMB dollar distribution system that
Yeah.
works.
And the most
Um,
important thing is they don't care about inventory quality,
you know,
right? So when you see Facebook go 90% AI generated slop, and it's like it's not a friend network anymore, but a brain. I have kids in elementary school now, so I know the term is brain rot for all this garbage content that's mostly watched by kids, right? It could be monetized as much as freaking Monday Night Football.
Ken. Well, and because all of those systems, they grade their own homework and they work with SMBs. My gosh, my wife and I were out to dinner last night and we were looking at Instagram because like, wow, it's dark in 2025. And but we were trying to see actual creator content and it was one every 4 or 5 tiles. And all I could think was, this is worse than an MFA website.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
And
The actual content is so few and far between. It might as well literally be an image and then a bunch of tabula tiles. Like that's what I'm looking at when I'm using Instagram, and it's horrible.
Lucian, yeah. And
So
what about Twitter? Twitter is like this bizarre Trumpian play. It's like this weird right-wing porn site where, like the first 10 responses to anything are blue check, MAGA, Doge cheering, just like cheering. They have nothing to say, but I voted for this. Like it's
well,
just
and then you get something totally inappropriate. So if you're using it in public and somebody's looking at what this person's looking at on
uh,
their phone, like it's like so. But yeah, I to answer Matthew's question, I certainly think that Performance Max and like Advantage Plus or whatever Facebook's is called exist to remove the ability to target away from the slop, but it's a pact with the devil because they are going to say, when you give us this control, we will drive outcomes according to our outcome measurement better. And because of that, I think it's working. Like, I don't think PMax is a failure. I think PMax is actually like for all the hemming and hawing we do about it, pretty widely used. And it gives Google a lot of control to distribute dollars where Google makes money while still hitting goals because they're aware of the goals. So I
Yeah.
don't know if agencies are actually going to pull budgets out. I'm not sure it's a thing. I think it's an easy button. And
This is the badly trained dog again, man. This is an algorithm that's trained to find the cheapest possible content, plus probably AI making all that slop content and brain rot. And advertisers just got to think about who's watching it. It seems to me it's mostly kids or adults who are in a very relaxed frame of mind, we'll say. It's like your mind's off. I look at slop content sometimes. It's like your mind is off. It's not a good ad environment.
yeah, I mean, I will say this. I am I've always wanted someone to send me a study that like proves that showing your ads next to fancy things creates brand like correlation in
Yeah.
the mind of the consumer.
Or
Like,
haven't
is
tried.
that real? Like, I'm a skeptic. Is that an actual thing?
Yeah.
It is?
No, it's hard to quantify. It's hard
Yeah.
to really get it. Like we proved like the layout of the page matters. Like yeah, like the number of ads on the page and the layout of the
Oh
page.
yeah. That's
All that
those are my
quality
numbers. I love
environment.
those numbers. Those are great numbers. That's real data. I mean, is it worth paying a made up number to have my ad next to the New York Times logo?
Yeah, it's
Like,
like the internet dilutes quality no matter what. Like the New York Times looks just like,
yeah,
a crap
it's any
news
other
site.
website. Like,
Whereas if you're sponsored the US Open, you're in this rarefied US Open environment, like you feel it. You're around a bunch of rich people in the fall in New York, and you see that Mercedes logo, and it's associated with that experience, right? So it's I think that's a really hard thing to replicate online, and it hasn't really been done yet. Try to think. I don't know if it can't be done, but there's certainly I mean the New York Times and Wall Street Journal experience is better than than fake news experiences, but whether it's really like anything like Mercedes-Benz sponsoring the US Open, I don't know.
I'd be really curious if there was someone did a brand lift study and was like, "Hey, we're gonna buy on these 25 hyper recognized websites. We're gonna buy high attention, and then we're gonna buy on the long tail, and we're gonna see if the brand association is different."
Yeah,
Um, I would love to see that.
that
That
stuff is
must,
hard. It's really, I mean, to get brand association, you have to survey, and then you have to it's really hard surveys, and yeah. But if someone wants to fund it, we could help run that.
and there are brand survey companies out there. It's, just
Yeah, I
20,
know.
20, $30,000. That's all it costs. It's
How to
really
Lucid?
inexpensive.
No, we bake Lucid in if you want to optimize to their signal. So we give
Cool.
free Lucid surveys and optimize to them if you want to drive lift in that brand experience. But no one has like charged us with like quantify how much more it's worth for brand lift to be in these better environments. It'd be cool because everyone has opinions about it. So the brands, they sure have opinions about it.
Oh my gosh, this would be such a cool thing to do.
All right, maybe we should wrap here. It's
We can wrap.
Sleepy Friday.
That's all right. You were out to dinner last night. I went to a metal show of Solo last night, which
You went
was
really?
I did. Um,
See.
it was interesting. It was a band I've been following for 20 years, and I hung out with them afterward, and they're all
Wow.
in their 40s, and they're like, "We're not sure we're gonna make it," and I'm like, "I'm not sure either, guys."
Oh, where
It
was
was like really tough.
oh
Yeah.
where were they playing? Did they playing at a real venue?
Yeah, real venue. Oh, I mean, they're a huge band. They have a huge following.
Okay.
And they're like trying to expand it, and it's just like it's a very interesting thing to have some talk to someone who is a musician who makes enough money, right, to
Yeah.
survive, but not
Merch.
enough that it's like
It's rough. You
off the
have to sell
charts.
merch to your biggest fans. And
Yeah.
like,
Ooh, Karen Green, isn't brands different from performance?
different.
Ah, I'll let you go.
See, different too. You got to learn that to work in the UK. They don't say different from, different
Oh,
too.
different too. I'm sorry.
Performance would be on par. No. If it matters for brand, it matters for performance. They're the same thing. Like it's like if the ad works, it changes the person's mind. It affects them mentally, makes them more likely to buy. Whether it makes them more likely to buy or think better of the brand which makes them more likely to buy long term. It's directionally same thing.
It's you say that so easily, Adam. The reason it's so hard, the reason we have the distinction in most people's minds, though, right, is performance means I can tie this directly to someone doing something. Brand means I've invested in something that an MMM is gonna pop up later, if I'm being generous. Um, and
But
I
it's
complete, but I
branding
can.
works. Read the long and short of it and any other research that come out. Like it's all it works.
I
So
completely agree with you. I don't think it's a proper distinction. I think that it is the notion that there's branding money and performance money, to me, is a really sneaky way of saying there's money that we're not going to measure.
yeah.
And then there's money that we're going to measure. And whoever thought up calling money we're not going to measure, investing in your brand, was a brilliant swindler. And like, and it's a real thing.
It's much
Somebody
more
came up
money.
with that.
Some brands are really good at it. I think there wasn't much chance to measure it and people did a good job intuitively, but digital just ruined it. The expectation that everything is going to have like an immediate trackable impact has really confused things. And I think the best evidence is the DTC, the growth, the growth. What is it? The head of growth at a DTC company. I've had the conversation multiple times about like their baseline awareness. It's like you want me to drive performance, but only 10% of America has heard of your goddamn product. Like I know you can't measure what telling the other 90% about your product, but I'm sure it would help.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I said, nothing tickled me more than when in my LinkedIn feed there was a media mix modeling company, said it was an AI company, just raised a Series A, and I was like, wait a minute, like
Yeah, I know. There's a
that's not
bunch of them.
AI. We've been doing that a long time.
What about the
That's
guy saying
marketing.
email's better than programmatic? You called my attention to that by responding
Ooh.
to him. He's like, email is the new way to get your brand out.
Well, your reply literally made me laugh, which is why did you post this to LinkedIn? Like, it should have been an email.
My email for the news about this. Ireland is Ireland. UK is UK. Oh, sorry.
Ah, there we go. Should have known with a Kieran.
Yeah, I should have known by his name. I thank you, Ireland.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Richmond. We're big in the United Kingdom and Ireland. And
I,
probably
I,
there's a lot of countries out there. I got
I'm
incorporated in England, and I thought it was the UK, but to be incorporated, it's only two of the countries. I think it's Wales and England.
Wales in the UK. Yeah, or Wales in England.
Not
I'm Welsh.
incorporated in Scotland or Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The history is fascinating.
It
I
has to
mean,
boost
there's
soccer teams.
yeah, I want so
Uh-oh.
ooh, um I I have to make it over there. We will have to do an episode. Wait,
Let's
are
go.
you there right now? I should have flown over. We should have done this
I'm
from the
not
UK.
there. I'm not there, but I'm
Okay.
arranging to do the show from Cam if I can. Ha.
Yeah. I'll do Can. I'll be back at Can 1 year. I keep saying that, but
Mhm.
it's
Really not fun.
historically a boondoggle for the sell side. Like when the sell side goes to Can, it's like
And yeah.
there's not a real reason. Um,
Yeah. I'm excited about it this year. We're bringing a big crew. Marley Baker's coming.
oh, it's gonna be awesome.
I'll be there.
All right,
Perfect,
let's
perfect,
call it.
guys.
Thanks to the all the nations of the UK and Ireland and all the British Isles and to Australia as well.
Thank
What
you so much,
countries are
everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.
next week? Bye bye.